Hi, I'm Linsey, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Coordinator for GFS, a disability justice activist, and I'm also a former little girl. I was a girl who was difficult. I was too dramatic. Someone that didn't quite fit the mold that society puts out for each and every little girl. At least, that's how authority figures saw me. My doctors, my teachers, even my family. I was a chronically ill little girl who was simply too neurodivergent to understand how to fall in line or fit my required shape. I was born with a genetic condition, and because of that, all of the connective tissue in my body is wrong. Everything from my skin to my organs and my joints. I partially dislocate multiple limbs a day, and little in my body functions as it should. Our marginalized characteristics affect how we experience the world, but drawing attention to them and asserting yourself does not make for good little girls in society's eyes. Where assertiveness is prized in boys and resisting authority may be met with the all too powerful mantra, boys will be boys. Girls are met with double standards and forced politeness. They are often demonized as being bossy or difficult. We see the same patterns in stories GFS girls tell us today and in our research. For generations, girls have been taught the same roles, like some kind of malevolent spell, binding girls, limiting their futures, and stealing their voices. I do not know what it's like to not be in pain, even as a child, but expressing my pain and failing to live up to ableist expectations was met with frustration and telling me to be quiet. When I fell constantly, my mother told me off for not paying attention. She didn't believe me when I told her that my ankles just went the wrong way. They did. Around age 10 to 11, my symptoms started taking me out of school for months to years at a time. I was only 16 the first time a doctor told my mother I might have Munchausen syndrome. But had they listened to me, they would have seen an obvious textbook case of my primary condition. But they didn't, and my alphabet of diagnoses remained undiagnosed, and I continued to struggle, nearly flunking out of school multiple times, and now I no longer go to the hospital when I have a dislocation. Most of my conditions are still untreated. I was taught to suffer in silence and called a liar every time I tried to speak of my worsening symptoms. Because girls are socialized to make themselves smaller and punished when they do not. My primary diagnosis didn't come until I was 30 years old, after decades of doctors quite literally telling me I was crazy. Continuing a rich legacy of doctors writing off girls' and women's concerns as female hysteria. My life and opportunities are haunted by the shadows of a lifetime of neglect and forced silence. Girls should not have to wait until they are my age to find the confidence to speak up and the resilience to refuse to go away until they are properly heard. Because social expectations of silence and politeness from women and girls sentence millions of us to immeasurable pain, irreparably damaging our bodies and limiting our choices and futures, even preventing chronically ill little girls from living long enough to tell their stories like I am. The intersection between disability and gender is quite simply that deep. Falling through the cracks kills disabled girls and women, especially those who are marginalized by other factors such as their race, nationality, or class. A 2021 UCL study even found that medical professionals of all genders consistently overestimate men's pain and underestimate women's. These ingrained biases have created a system in which girls become women who are left ignored. That leaves Black women waiting significantly longer for cancer diagnosis, long waiting lists for gender-affirming care, and common reproductive health conditions like endometriosis taking almost 9 years to be diagnosed on average. Mine took nearly 20. Over the last several months, I've campaigned against Labour's disability benefit cuts which would push an additional 400,000 people into poverty, including 50,000 children. The disabled people who would be most hurt are women and girls, trans people, and people of colour, because figures of authority do not see any of us as experts in our lived experiences or wish to hear our voices. Despite condemnation from everyone from grassroots activists like myself to the UN, the bill passed. But this isn't a story about giving up or being defeated. It's a story that acknowledges the complexity of challenging authority and unravels how deep we have to go to do that. The collective voices of disabled activists and disabled people's organizations not only really embarrassed the government, but forced them to make huge concessions. That's not a loss when you're fighting the system itself. Challenging authority isn't just about obvious wins or straightforward forms of protest. It's about challenging the very fabric of our society by tearing down the centuries-old social beliefs on who is believable and who is not. It's not enough to just say, girl voices matter. We must create safe spaces where girls are able to speak up without fear of being judged. We must give them the confidence to know and truly believe that their marginalized characteristics do not make them unreliable narrators, and the self-belief to really believe in their truth, as well as the resilience to keep coming back, no matter how many times a figure of authority like a doctor, a teacher, or even the government tries to silence them. And that's exactly what we do at GFS. We work with girls through community groups and workshops at school from young ages to disrupt the negative effects of gender bias before it robs them of their voices. We even recently taught girls how to run their own petitions and campaigns. With the power of early age intervention and research like our girl-led report, Girls Speak, we can begin to shift the dominant social narrative and really, truly challenge authority. And you should just come up and speak to us at the end because we have so much to say, and you can join in on the Friendship Bracelet campaign, which is a beautiful legacy of women supporting girls today. Thank you.